You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona, and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
I've got something for you today that is, it is a strange by nature sort of fact here, but also a little bit of a storytelling time that was inspired by Rachel.
Oh, no.
Does it have to do with the ocean or Australia?
It doesn't. It doesn't, in fact. That's amazing. You'll understand. If you listen to some of the previous episodes, you'll understand. So, Many years ago, as a young naturalist, I worked at a place called Warner Nature Center. And sadly, it no longer exists today. But great times were had there, and I learned so many things when I was starting out in my career. And I was reminded of one of those things by something Rachel said in a previous episode. And I'm not going to say what it is right away, though. First, I want to tell you about a bit of a mystery. There was a library at this nature center, and there was these cabinets, and in those cabinets was a large cylindrical leather case, much like a giant hat case.
Okay, so sort of wider than tall.
Yeah, I don't think you could fit. I mean, you could fit a sombrero in there if it wasn't too large of a sombrero. It was maybe like 8 inches high and like 24 inches across.
Okay.
So it was kind of a curious case there. And I asked the director, about what was inside. And he said, oh, this is really cool. It's a parabolic listening device.
What?
So being a big fan of spy stories, I had to check this out. Let me describe this for you. Inside was about a 2-foot around clear plastic dish, like a little mini radar dish. There was also a piece that looked like a handgun, but at the end was a microphone. So you would insert this gun piece through the hole in the dish, and the microphone would sit right at the focal point of the parabolic dish. You then plugged headphones into a jack on the handle, and you then had super hearing. So this is like exactly what you would see in one of these spy movies where someone's like, hiding behind a bush in the park, like trying to listen in on a covert conversation.
Yeah, just, let me put up this satellite right above my head so I can hear everything.
Yeah, it's a little obvious. It was clear plastic, but, it's, you might get noticed.
Maybe.
So what I found out the reason they had this is they'd gotten it a while back, and they had, for a good while, had it mounted on a pole, or they could mount it if they were going to use it that day, on a pole about 150 feet from the building, and they ran a wire from that pole permanently into the building, where they then ran those wires into a stereo receiver and then had large speakers mounted to the wall of the classroom. So if you were teaching a class about frogs in the spring, you could point this at the pond across the driveway and then go in the classroom and switch on the speakers, and you'd have this amplified sound of the pond in the classroom while you were teaching.
That is super cool.
That's really fun.
Yeah, you can actually point out different frog sounds and whatnot. And I had the same reaction that Victoria did, where I'm like, this is super cool. And I had kind of knew the story about what this was before I took it out of storage. So what I was wondering was, why on earth are we no longer using such a cool piece of tech, right?
Absolutely. Well, why would you not? It's there, and it sounds awesome.
Yeah, well, it did sound awesome, but I only wondered that for about 5 seconds after opening the case. Everything looked perfect. The plastic was uncracked. The wires were all there. It had been put away beautifully. It was also clear someone had, just moments before I opened the case, violently puked all over the inside of the case. The stench was overwhelming. But here's the weird thing. There was nothing inside but the device. No one had actually puked in this case. But the smell of vomit was just overpowering when I opened this up, and I promptly put it away. A few months later, I was working in the wood shop in the same building making like some sort of prop, like for a summer camp.
As you
And
do,
there
yes.
was the smell again. I could smell this vomit smell. And I'm going, what is going on? And this time I had a tool in my hand, like a nut driver.
Okay.
And I sort of like a screwdriver with like a plastic handle and a little metal bit sticking out. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, could this be like, and I kind of sniffed the handle and I'm like, oh my God, it's like clear plastic handle. It's like a colored, like a red plastic handle or something like that. Smelled like vomit as well. So luckily for me, being a curious person, the internet already existed way back then. So I asked if anyone else was online and fired up the modem and logged on to the internet at a blazing fast 28.8 bits per second. And what I discovered was that the plastic tool handles and the plastic of the dish were both emitting butyric acid, which is the same substance that
I talked
Rachel
about
mentioned.
That with the ginkgo.
Being found in ginkgo seeds. So what's it doing in there, right? These plastics were probably made out of something called CAB or CAB. It's cellulose acetate butyrate, I believe. Basically, to make this sort of plastic, you chemically modify cellulose from wood pulp. So it's actually the plastic is made out of wood, which is very cool.
That's so good.
And you treat it with this butyric acid, and that's all well and good until the plastic starts to degrade from either like getting wet or being exposed to heat, like being left in a hot cabinet for many years. And basically when it starts to degrade, it re-releases the acid, and that acid smells like puke.
Vomit.
Oh, no.
Yeah, pretty nasty. In nature, butyric acid is the smell of puke. Also, it's found in body odor and also rancid butter, all of which are just lovely smells, right?
So good.
Yeah.
There's actually the name of butyric. It actually comes from the word butter. It was discovered by a French chemist. So like one of the esters that is found in butter was kind of how it got its name. There is another place, though, that we come across it, and that is in Parmesan cheese. So it is one of these strong smells in Parmesan cheese, and you're like, wait, hold on.
I like
Parmesan cheese is delicious, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever smelled it, though?
Yes.
Now, when you say you like Parmesan, Rachel, do you like a nice block that you're like shaving off or grinding up, or do you buy like the green can of powdered stuff at the store?
I'm buying the stuff in the deli. It's already shaved or whatever, but it's not.
It's not the powder in the can.
Not the powder.
No.
Good on you. Good on you. From what I understand, I think the smell is more pronounced in that fake powdered cheese because it's kind of one of they may even add it in there, and that's what makes it taste like Parmesan. Whereas it's one of several different compounds found in like a good cheese. So there is a fun thing you can do, little experiment to do at home. If you want to do a little smell test, get some things that smell like apples and oranges and whatnot and blindfold somebody. Especially if you have some of that powdered Parmesan is really great. Maybe one of the only good uses for it. And put it in like a little dish or a little canister or something. And blindfold someone and say, now I'm going to have you smell an apple. Can you smell the apple? And they're like, yep. Now I'm going to have you smell the orange. Can you smell that? Yep. And goes, now I'm going to have you smell vomit. And if you put the Parmesan under their nose, they'll be like, oh God, gross, vomit. Why because you're primed to think of that. And it's pretty interesting that, if you told someone next is Parmesan cheese, they might go, oh, lovely Parmesan cheese. But so a lot of it's kind of in our head of what we think smells are going to be bad. And our perception of it kind of frames our reaction to it, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So people have used this for different stuff over the years. I found one reference online. I had no idea. Do you guys know the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society?
I have heard of them.
Absolutely not.
They're pretty, one might say, radical group of people who are like out
trying
to like stop whaling.
Yes.
Yeah. They make Greenpeace look like, super laid back. Apparently they have made like smell bombs out of this to like throw, or I don't know how to get them onto whaling ships to like cover the ships in this horrible smell and try to drive whaling ships away from the whales, which is pretty amazing. But the smell isn't all bad because obviously, like cheese, it smells good or tastes good.
Yeah.
There are different esters of butyric acid, and some of them are perceived by humans as pleasant and are used even in perfumes and as foods. So some of them smell like pineapple or apples or pears or apricots. And really interesting, another one of the esters is actually used in prescription hormonal birth control for women. Presumably not to make it smell good, but it has something to do with body chemistry and actually is effective for birth control. So butyric acid isn't just the smell of vomit or ginkgo trees. It is actually part of many of the foods we eat and the products we use. So when I heard you talk about that, I was like, I got to share a little bit more about it.
That's great.
That's so cool.
Great. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break. And when we get back, we will have something special from Rachel.
Hey, everyone. You may know that we do not...
Wait, Victoria, I thought it was Rachel's turn to do a segment.
Oh, yeah, we're doing an ad.
Right.
Oh, an ad? For what?
Yeah,
For
us. For Patreon.
Oh, for us. Well, that seems good.
Yeah, so...
Seems good. Go for it.
What was I going to say? You know, we don't do this podcast for money, but we do have some overhead expenses, website fees, various kinds of stuff that we got to pay to keep this show going and keep you entertained. But we did start a Patreon a few months ago, and it would be really great if you guys could help us out there.
Yeah, if you head on over to patreon.com/strangebynature, you can actually find out more about our Patreon program. You can become a member at 3 different levels and the different benefits depending on what level you join at.
And I mean, who wouldn't want to hang out with us just a little bit more and maybe hear some bonus things that are strange, but not necessarily long enough or strange enough to make it into the podcast?
Well, or things that you did hear in the podcast. I'm actually going to be taking one of the times Rachel started to laugh maniacally and uncontrollably and turn it into a ringtone you can download for your phone. But only if you're a member of what we'd like to call the Society of Strange.
So head on over to Patreon. What's that address again, Kirk?
That is patreon.com/strangebynature. One more time, patreon.com/strangebynature. Check out more information about it there.
Yeah, come join us. We're strange, you're strange. Let's go. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I realized I did a little math. Scary. There it is. I realized that the next couple episodes that we're going to be recording are actually airing in October.
That is correct.
And as an October baby, having been born in October, I have to roll with the spooky season. So my topics for the next month or so are going to be in spooky spirits.
All right.
And we should, a great time to remind people, we do have a Halloween show coming up as well.
I've been making plans.
I have so many thoughts.
Well, you've got like a pre-Halloween treat for us here, Rachel. Is that what I'm hearing?
For the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have like some kind of spooky themes going through. I'm really excited.
Oh my gosh. So you're just going full Halloween all October.
Yes.
Go for it. What do you got?
Okay. So I thought that to start us off, why not go for a classic? This particular, it's an animal, is both a symbol of Halloween and it has a little taste of monster. It is the Desmodus rotundus, also known as the common vampire bat.
That's where I thought you might be going.
Oh, nice.
Yes. It was first described by Western science in 1810 by a French naturalist with the last name Saint Hilaire. And generally speaking, the common vampire bat is located from southern Mexico all the way down to Argentina and Chile. Okay. Now, this little bat It has this it's a little leaf nose bat, so it has a really flat nose that looks like a scrunched up leaf. And it is about 3.5 inches long with about a 7-inch wingspan. And they weigh anywhere from about 25 to 40 grams, which is a pretty big range.
Yeah, but I mean, you said pretty big range. I thought you were going to say it's pretty big, and I'm like, it seems very small to me. That's not. I mean, for those people who don't know, a gram is the weight of 1 cubic centimeter of water, which I'm sure we all know what that feels like, right?
Absolutely.
No, it's also the weight, incidentally, of 1 large paperclip. So
yeah,
some of these bats are as light as 25 paperclips. That's really small.
It's so small. They are short-haired. They have silver gray hair on their underside with darker hair on its back. It has a really deeply grooved lower lip in order to help bring in blood.
Suck your blood.
Yes, let us be the vampire we want to be.
Oh, we're not going to do the whole thing in this voice, are we?
No.
Okay, great.
So it has a really specialized clawed thumb, and actually, so there are 3 different bats that are 3 vampire bats, actually.
Ooh. 1, 2, 3. I'll stop.
So it has a clawed thumb, and it actually, one way you can determine the common vampire bat from the other 2 is it has a much longer thumb claw than the other 2 do.
The uncommon vampire bat?
They are the hairy-legged vampire bat and the white-winged vampire bat.
Okay. I'm just picturing a vampire shaving and stuff. It's fine. Keep
and
going.
They just miss their legs.
Yeah, right. That's totally. Forgot to shave my legs this morning. Go on.
So the clawed thumb on the tip of each wing, because a wing is really specialized, like hand or arm for a bat, pretty much, because it's skin that is connected to each of the fingers. So their thumb is the tip part of their wing. Anyway, so that actually helps them to climb onto prey and help them take off from the ground. They have the fewest teeth among any bats. Any guesses how many teeth they have?
It's sort of surprising that they don't have too many teeth. They got to have at least 2.
You're right.
Right. I mean, they're mammals, and mammals, you should have a bunch of teeth. I mean, I'm going to say they have 20.
I'm going
Kirk,
to
you're closer.
guess very low. I'm going to say 8.
Yeah. You're going to say 8? It's 18.
Oh, I was close.
Mm-hmm. So they have the fewest among bats, which is crazy.
Okay.
Also, the fact that other bats have more teeth, kind of didn't know about that. Learning always happens when you least expect it. So it's a vampire bat, so it does have really sharp incisors on its upper jaw, and these are always razor sharp.
We're at episode, what is this, 35, and Rachel is still doing hand gestures. You know they can't see you, Rachel.
I do know this, yes, but it's also really fun to give to you guys, just like sharp incisors. Anyway,
okay. Moving on.
They stay super sharp because those teeth actually do not have enamel. So they don't have an enamel coating to help protect them. But that's how they stay razor sharp, is because they don't have enamel. It's real weird.
I would think that would make them wear down faster. But maybe the wearing down is what keeps them sharp?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Also unusual for bats, they have excellent eyesight.
The better to find you with.
Oh,
yes.
Beat me to it. Yep, there it is.
There it is. This is one of 3 bats that are hematophagic, or that they feed exclusively on blood, specifically warm-blooded animals. Surprise, surprise, a vampire bat eats blood. In order to do that, the reason why it's actually really uncommon for especially mammals to eat blood in general is, in order to do that, your body has to figure out how to not overwhelm the kidneys or the bladder, because it's a purely liquid diet, because you can't be peeing all of the time. You have to deal with potential iron poisoning. So if you have too much iron, that could be an issue. And you also have to deal with a ton of extra protein that comes in. So those are a lot of challenges that are really tough for a body to get through. So most animals don't do it. And there's a couple different theories out there why the vampire bat has started to do that, but I'm not going to get into those theories very much. Mainly because there's a couple
you
of
also you also burst into flames if you're in sunlight.
Yes.
You can be killed by a stake through the heart.
Don't like garlic very much.
Don't like garlic. Yeah, imagine. So many good Italian dishes you're missing out on.
Just gone. You have to count every grain of salt if it's spread in front of you. So that's some of the reasons why it's very uncommon. The common vampire bat actually feeds more on mammals than the other two species. The other two, the hairy-legged and the white-winged vampire bats, they seem to prefer feeding on birds more than mammals.
Really?
The common vampire bat actually goes more for livestock than it does wild animals, and actually prefers horses over cattle if given the option. And now that we're here, we're talking about it, how they hunt at night, because they are still nocturnal animals. They use echolocation and they use smell in order to track prey, especially looking for that cattle or livestock, and they go up to 5 miles away from their roost.
Wow.
Once they find a target, they either will land on it. The target is obviously going to be asleep. They either land on it or land near it and jump onto it from the ground. And then they use heat sensors in that really flat leaf-shaped nose to find blood vessels that are near the skin. They will then use those really sharp incisors to bite and make a small flap on the skin, so that way there's blood that pools up and they start lapping up the blood. Their blood has an anticoagulant. I can't say that word. Anyway.
Maybe you just whenever you have a word that you need to say that you don't know how to pronounce, you just pause and be like, Victoria, you just fill that in.
Victoria, just what is the word?
Their saliva has an anticoagulant.
There it is. And that keeps the blood from clotting, so it just keeps going. And they just keep lapping up the blood until they're full. Now, they have to eat at least every 2 to 3 days. If they go beyond that, the vampire bat will starve. There's actually been evidence of them sharing a meal with other bats in their roost, mostly female bats, because they're polygynous, which means that it's one male and multiple females. But they all support each other fairly decently, which means that if one maybe hasn't been able to find a meal, they will help each other out and actually regurgitate some blood meal into their friend's mouth, I guess. So that way they're sharing.
That's what friends are for blood times. But no. Gosh, that's just horrifying.
Isn't it just horrifying? Now, if that wasn't weird enough, more recently, scientists have discovered that vampire bats can actually run on the ground.
Oh, that's disturbing.
Yeah.
I bet that looks super weird.
It's super weird because most bats have actually lost the ability to maneuver on land very well.
Right.
Like if they're on the land, they're like stuck. They have to be able to fly off, but that's about it. They can't like walk. But vampire bats actually use their really strong forelimbs. I talked about their thumb claws. There's this pad right underneath it, and it allows the bats to have this weird, like, loping gait. And they use their strong forelimbs in their wings to actually run, and they can run up to 2.5 miles per hour. Which,
okay,
I mean...
So I could get away.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's not fast, but... it's pretty it's pretty fast for a very small mammal that, generally speaking, you wouldn't expect to be able to run on land. But that's what I have for you in this spooky season.
Amazing.
Look forward to more for the rest of the month.
Of course. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, it'll be Victoria.
So I'm going to take you to Brazil in the 19th century. And this was a time when European naturalists... Oh, sorry, what, Rachel?
Oh, time travel.
Time travel.
Here for it. Let's go.
Yes. This was a time when European naturalists and explorers were kind of combing the area. And they would talk to local people, and sometimes they would hear tell of a strange creature called the Minhocão. It lived in tunnels underground or possibly in the water.
Okay.
Do you know where I'm going with this, Kirk?
I might. If it is, I'm going to be super excited.
Okay. It was snake-like in form, but in some ways more resembled a gigantic earthworm, except that it had black scales on its body and mobile horns on its head. So
this is definitely not what I was thinking of.
I'd be interested later to hear what it was you were thinking of.
No, okay, taking notes for next week. All right, I'm good. Or for 2 weeks from now, good.
Depending on whose story you believed, it might be 20 meters long or up to 80 meters. That's 65 to 260 feet.
That's too long. Yeah. Whatever it is, it's too long.
It was said to pull cows and other livestock under the water and devour them. Now,
oh my God,
that's not great.
Yeah.
No.
This creature is considered mythical, but just like with the phoenix that Rachel talked about a few weeks ago, this one may actually be grounded in a real-life animal, one that is even weirder, dare I say, than a flamingo.
Oh, okay.
Listening.
Yeah, so
I'm nervous.
There are a couple ideas about what could have inspired this, but the most likely candidate for the source of the Minhocão legend is the world's most elusive amphibian, the Sicilian.
All right.
Sounds like a person from Sicily, but that's spelled...
Sure does.
Right.
I'm thinking of Princess Bride right now, but go on.
It's spelled Caecilian.
That is indeed different.
Yeah. So most people know that frogs and toads and salamanders and newts are amphibians, but a lot of people have not heard of Sicilians. That is probably because they are extremely hard to find, and not a lot is known about them by science.
Yeah, I have no idea what this is.
So they are completely legless. This is also kind of harks back to your legless lizards episode, Rachel.
Yeah, it does.
Completely legless. They live almost entirely underground. They dig tunnels, and most of them are blind and deaf. They have ring-shaped folds all along the length of their body, which really does make them look a lot like an earthworm, especially the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And the bigger ones can look a bit like snakes or eels. Another weird thing, so as naturalists, we often teach kids about reptiles and amphibians and the differences between them. One of the things we usually say is that reptiles have scales and amphibians don't. Well,
right.
As we often talk about on this podcast, nature likes to laugh at our puny categories that we come up with. Most Sicilians have scales.
Of course they do.
Of course they do.
Now,
why would they not?
They are totally different than reptile scales. So reptile scales are made of keratin, which is the same stuff that the outer layer of the skin is made of. Sicilian scales are usually embedded in those ring-like folds in their skin, and they're made actually of the mineral calcite.
What?
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
What? Calcite?
So it's like little tiny flakes of rock under their skin, as best I can understand.
Gosh, that's weird.
I mean, doesn't calcite, if I remember right, like it reacts with acid and gets like soapy, yeah?
Yeah, but it's embedded in the skin, so it's not gonna dissolve if they happen
trying to
go
remember
through a puddle of vinegar.
What calcite is. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Yeah,
Why not?
you would, usually you're not swimming in hydrochloric acid, so you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Probably fine, yeah.
So they're found exclusively in wet tropical areas. And because they live underground their entire lives, they've evolved so that their eyes are either very small or totally hidden under the skin or even under the skull. And so they're basically limited to sensing light and dark. They're also thought not to be able to hear, but they do have a great sense of smell, including this pair of tentacles in between their eyes and their nose. So if you're thinking back to the Minhocão legend, like the horns.
No.
Okay,
that are
okay,
movable. Yeah. Oh, I don't like that.
So they're thought to help extra with the sense of smell.
Yeah. I mean, they already had detriment with no real good eyesight or hearing. They had to have an excellent sense somewhere.
Yes. And you may also not be surprised to hear something they have in common with many other amphibians is that they have a toxic substance on their skin that they exude to protect themselves.
Wow.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. They have very strong skulls to help them burrow through the soil, and they have many sharp teeth. And they're thought to eat earthworms and other underground invertebrates to the extent that scientists can even figure out what they eat, which is not all that much.
Yeah.
But how big are these?
Well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'll get there.
'Cause I'm picturing this really long thing that's still horrifying, by the way.
Before I get to the length, I want to talk about something else that's pretty strange, which is that all of them use internal fertilization, which some other amphibians do, but not most of them. And about 75% of caecilians actually give birth to live young.
Huh. Okay.
Now, there are a handful of frog and salamander species that do this, but they're pretty rare. Most amphibians just lay their eggs in the freshwater, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the tadpoles hatch out. But caecilians that have live young, basically the eggs hatch inside the mother's oviduct. And then the way they survive is they have these special teeth, and they scrape cells off the lining of the oviduct and eat them. Yum.
Yikes.
Oh, but it gets more special.
So painful.
Okay.
So even for the
Let me pick my jaw off the floor. Oh my gosh.
Even for the egg-laying species, actually there's maternal care. So this is also somewhat unusual for amphibians. So they guard the eggs, and then there is one egg-laying species that feeds its young after they hatch with a special layer of fatty skin on the outside of the mother's body, which again, the young scrape off with their teeth.
Oh, what? You
Sounds
should have saved this for the Halloween
painful.
episode. My gosh.
Dear Lord.
And some species are born as larvae, like a tadpole, but some have already metamorphosed to the adult form by the time they hatch, although little bitty. And the eggs and larvae are not usually laid directly in the water. They're usually laid in damp soil that's kind of near water. And so larvae do not even spend all their lives in the water, which is also strange for amphibians.
Yeah.
Right.
So, with some of these descriptions, you can maybe see how the legend of the Minhocão does resemble a caecilian. You've got the scales, the tentacles, the burrowing underground. Our real hang-up is, as you mentioned, Kirk, the size. So the smallest species are, in fact, the size of worms. So you could easily mistake a caecilian for a worm. The largest ones...
Okay.
I would say only get to 1.5 meters. That's about 5 feet. That is still very long. But it is not 80 meters or even 20 meters.
Well, and not like going to take down livestock or something.
No. So, this could be just exaggeration, the way happens. Or, there's a possibility that it could have been a now extinct or even undiscovered larger species of caecilian. Who knows?
Sure.
Horrifying. Sure. Am I longer than a caecilian?
A little bit. You got a couple inches on a caecilian.
I'll take it.
I mean, Rachel's more than 1.5 meters tall.
Yeah.
Yes. Probably. I'm not
probably.
Good with I'm not good with the metric system. I'm working on it.
Yeah, you're right, Kirk. Actually, so it said 1.5 meters, parentheses 5 feet, but 1.5 meters is less than 5 feet, isn't it? Not that much.
It's 4.9.
Okay. pretty close.
But Rachel is still more than 4.9 feet. Not that the listeners really care about Rachel's exact height.
No. But hey, it's fun.
But it is our standard unit of measure on the show,
Yes.
so
It is,
they are slightly less than one Rachel.
I would like to say, I found out you were wrong, Kirk. I am
I
bigger than the giant armadillo.
I heard about this, yes. You are bigger than a giant armadillo.
Victory
Anyway,
in our time.
Continue, Victoria.
Well, and that's all I have about Sicilians for you today.
It's horrifying. I want to see so many pictures of what a Sicilian looks like if they are available.
Well, it's CAECILIAN.
That's correct.
Into the image search, and you can see all the pictures you want.
Excellent. I'm going to do that because this is horrifying in my brain right now.
And we will
Thank you, Victoria.
talk to you next week. You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.